world was nothing but white and silence. Snow stretched endlessly in every direction, swallowing the horizon, blending the earth with the sky until it became impossible to tell where one ended and the other began. Each breath burned as it left his lungs, a sharp frost that crystallized in the air before vanishing into the storm. His boots, once sturdy, were now split at the seams, their soles flapping uselessly with every step. Cold seeped through the thin leather, numbing his toes until they felt more like stone than flesh. He trudged forward slowly, the crunch of snow beneath him the only sound that proved he still existed. Behind him, his trail of footprints stretched like a fragile lifeline, disappearing into the vast emptiness as the wind worked tirelessly to erase all proof of his struggle. It was as if nature itself wanted to deny he had ever been here. Every step was an act of defiance. His body screamed for rest, for warmth, for food. Hunger had become a constant companion, not just a gnawing pain but a heavy weight that pulled at his ribs and hollowed his cheeks. He tried to remember when he last ate, but the days had blurred together into a fog of snow and exhaustion. All he could recall was the sound of his stomach twisting itself into knots, the cruel reminder that his body was running on nothing but willpower. The mountains ahead looked like dark teeth tearing into the sky. Their jagged peaks were lost in swirling clouds, menacing yet magnetic, pulling him toward them with a promise of both danger and possibility. Somewhere beyond those ridges, he told himself, there had to be something, shelter, fire, maybe even people. He clung to that thought like a drowning man clutching driftwood. His legs wobbled, forcing him to lean heavily on the crude walking stick he had carved from a branch days before. It wasn't much, but it kept him upright when the ground seemed to tilt beneath him. As he paused, bent forward, his breath came out in harsh, ragged bursts, fogging up the thin scarf that wrapped his face. Through the blur of his vision, memories flickered like ghosts. His mother's laughter in the kitchen, the warmth of bread just out of the oven, the way sunlight used to filter through the trees back home. The images pierced him with longing so fierce he almost collapsed under its weight. But the past was gone, locked behind miles of frozen wasteland. Ahead was only uncertainty. He closed his eyes, listening. The wind howled, carrying with it a mournful sound, as though the land itself wept for all those who had perished in its grip. Fear coiled in his chest. He was small, insignificant, a fragile figure dwarfed by the vast cruelty of nature. Yet beneath the fear, something stubborn flickered, an ember of defiance, the will to take just one more step. And so he did. His foot pressed into the snow, leaving a shallow mark before the wind began to erase it. That sound, the crunch, the echo of survival, became the rhythm of his journey. Step after step, fragile but unyielding, he walked on the edge of life, refusing to surrender. Days dissolved into nights, and nights bled into mornings without meaning. Time became a cruel blur, measured only by the rise and fall of the sun when it was visible, and the toll his body took with each passing hour. His lips had split into thin red lines, his beard frosted stiff with ice, and his eyelids felt heavy as though weighted with lead. Still his legs carried him forward, guided by nothing more than instinct and the faint whisper of hope that refused to die. The snow had begun to thin. It was subtle at first, patches of dark stone breaking through the white, tiny cracks in winter's iron grip. At first he thought it was only exhaustion playing tricks on his eyes. But as he staggered downward into a shallow valley, the ground revealed more of itself, naked patches of earth like fragile promises beneath the retreating snow. Then he heard it. Water. At first it was only the faintest murmur, so soft he mistook it for the wind. But as he pressed forward, each step dragging his weakened body closer, the sound grew clearer. A trickle, a stream, life itself whispering through the rocks. His heart hammered in his chest. He stumbled, almost falling, his stick catching the ground just in time to steady him. The thought of fresh water spurred him like nothing else had. And then he saw it, a narrow stream cutting across the valley floor, glistening silver beneath the pale dawn light. It was small, fragile, but to him it looked like a river of salvation. Dropping to his knees, he plunged his hands into the icy current, the cold biting his skin yet filling him with fierce relief. He cupped the water, brought it to his cracked lips, and drank. It burned at first, sharp and freezing, but then the taste spread across his tongue, pure, real, alive. He drank greedily, gulping as though the stream itself could fill the emptiness carved into his stomach. Tears stung his eyes and froze at the corners, tiny crystals clinging to his lashes. He pressed his forehead to the ground, overcome with something he had not felt in weeks. Gratitude. The earth, brutal and unforgiving, had finally offered him a gift. When he lifted his head again, he noticed its smoke. Far in the distance, faint against the horizon, a thin column of gray rose into the pale sky. His heart skipped. It was not a storm cloud nor the shadow of the mountains. It was deliberate, human. The sign of fire. The sign of life. Hope swelled inside him, fierce and terrifying. Questions came just as quickly. Who lived there? Would they welcome a stranger, ragged and broken, or turn him away? Worse, could they be dangerous? But even fear could not drown out the spark now lit in his chest. That smoke was possibility, and possibility was survival. With trembling hands, he pushed himself back to his feet. His legs ached, his lungs burned, but his steps felt different now. They were no longer the hollow echoes of a man on the brink of despair. Each crunch in the snow carried weight, purpose, the promise of a journey that might lead him back to belonging. And so he walked toward the smoke, toward the unknown, leaving behind the valley and the stream. His footsteps, once fragile, had become the steady drumbeat of hope reborn.